It is the beginning of the summer. It is Friday, the weekend of Memorial Day weekend. And a lot of people would normally be traveling, but this year, gang, doesn't seem to be that much, right, Julie?
No, definitely not. I mean, there was this survey conducted that found 95% of people do not plan to travel this weekend. So, the favorite word these days seems to be unprecedented, but obviously that's unprecedented. Also unprecedented is the AAA, which typically comes out with a forecast for travel for Memorial Day weekend, is not doing it this time. They're not providing that forecast, and that's the first time they have not. So just lots of different ways of measuring how little people will be moving around. Although Peter Greenberg, who we have had on the show, Adam, from CBS, has said that this is going to be the summer of the Great American Road Trip, right? That if people are traveling, they're going to be traveling by car, not just because flying doesn't feel very safe right now, but also because gas prices are low.
Yeah, I got to wonder how many people from, I guess, the regions that have been particularly impacted, like New York, will actually go out and travel. I mean, my own parents have asked me to come and visit them. I won't, just because I don't want to risk their health. They're in New Jersey. I'm in New York. We're in a hot spot. But then in the New York area, we've seen a lot of people start to get out on the streets. In fact, the Mayor de Blasio was cracking down on bars and restaurants that were serving outdoor drinks on sidewalks and having people congregate there. He says that we're going to see the city open up in early June, but I can't imagine that that's going to be a tenable situation over the Memorial Day weekend when people have been locked down for 2 months or so and really want to just get outside. I personally just want to have some drinks on a roof, with safety measures in place.
I don't know, guys. It seems to me like this is the best opportunity ever to avoid the friends and family members you don't really want to see. Let's see what happens at Thanksgiving if people are still using this as an excuse not to get together with the people they really don't want to see on Thanksgiving. One of my fears, I'm trying to think opportunistically about this. Like, where might you be able to go and get a better deal than you would otherwise get, or have the whole place to yourself or something like that? And my worst fear is I think I'm going to go mountain hiking or something, and it's going to be remote, and I'm just going to be surrounded by hordes of people who had the same thought as I do. So, I mean, the one thing we do know for sure is we're going to see different types of travel this summer.
So one thing to keep in mind, though, is that who's locked down, who's not. And we just heard from the governor here in New York that New York City will be the state's only region on lockdown after next week, although Mayor de Blasio in New York has said probably begin opening up the first half of June. So what good is it if New York City's locked down, but people still can move in and out? Because listen, Second Avenue there was traffic. It was backed up for the first time since March 18th. I was thrilled. Who's ever happy about traffic? But it sounds like people are, whether we're being told to lock down or not, ignoring it.
But it's problematic. I mean, and we've now started to see some research of various types saying, look, you can't contain a virus response to a state for obvious reasons. Not just that the virus doesn't respect state borders, but neither do consumers. I mean, if you can't shop in one state, you go to the next one. I think one of the most interesting things that's happened in our area, Adam, our viewers not in the New York area might be interested by this. Officials in New Jersey are pissed off at New York because New Jersey beaches are opening and New York beaches are not. So in New Jersey, they think they're just going to get hordes of New Yorkers coming down there because they can't go to their own beaches in New York. So a bit of interstate rivalry there, I guess.
Yeah, there are some beaches in New York that are opening. On Long Island, they are, I believe. But in New York City, yeah, they're not opening. And I think there's been discussion of whether or not, Bill de Blasio, again, the mayor of New York City, coming to terms with folks on Long Island saying you can't keep New Yorkers out of those beaches. But you're right, Rick. This is an idea where you do have hotspots or prior hotspots or areas where they're still locked down. Those people are going to travel and they're going to go to areas where there aren't lockdowns. And isn't that how the original spread across the country happened? I think a lot of investigations have found that the original New York strains ended up in areas of the country where New Yorkers had fled. So with these openings and this kind of weekend and, the warmer weather, there's been talk of maybe COVID not responding as well in the heat. But do you think that there might be people who are going to spread it across the country again?
But before you answer that question, just want to let everyone know that CBS News is reporting President Trump is going to hold a press conference at 1 o'clock. So CBS saying the president will take questions from reporters at 1 o'clock.
And that was
Julie?
unscheduled, we should mention as well, Adam. I just wanted to mention as well, as we talk about lockdowns and reopening, that reopening is not like flipping a switch and everything is open. As we have discussed multiple times, there are phases to these reopenings. So even in states that are so-called reopened, they're not necessarily entirely reopened. Restaurants are still at limited capacity in many places. And so when we talk about New York State, outside of New York City reopening, it will be similar. It's not as though everything is throwing open its doors and bringing in large crowds of people. And as we also know, there are some things that will be not permitted for quite some time. Large gatherings, for example, concerts, for example, sporting events, for example, are likely to still not be happening for some time. So just something to keep in mind as we talk about all of these reopenings.
Here's what I'm waiting for some startup to invent: a barbering machine, where you go into a booth or something and you just put in some money and there's no person there, and you dial up whatever kind of haircut.
You need to go rent Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. It's actually in there. And what happens to Dick Van Dyke in that old film you don't want to see. But they've also got the clippers, buddy, where you can put on the the things, set it at 3, 2, or 1. Or you can get an illegal haircut.
Yeah, I think we're all experimenting with all of the above, Adam.